Trying to carry me to my grave. The shallow earth is where my bones now lay. But the earth keeps sinking deeper and I can't escape. I'm just another soul trying to be saved. This love's gonna carry me to my grave. I'm just another soul trying to be saved. This love's gonna carry me to my grave. Love and understanding and acceptance.
The following program is rated MA-LSV. It contains strong language, sexual situations, and violence. It is intended only for mature audiences.
Finally, show with the balls to call it like it is. Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM.
Countdown to audio torture.
The Rated R Safety Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Let the eardrum pain begin.
Forget the corporate bullshit. This is the Rated R Safety Show with your host, Dr. It doesn't matter who the host is.
Oh, you so know it. I call it. We talk about it and do all the glorious things that we get to do on this side of the equation. Anyways, how are you doing on this fantastic Friday? Also known as Freeform Friday, so that's the other portion that we have to talk about. So anyways, we are broadcasting live, yes, and live and in living color from the Safety FM studios in Orlando, Florida, and coming across the multiverse known as Safety FM, and then we are hanging out with our friends and colleagues at that other place.
Radio Big. USA, Canada, UK.
I guess I got so excited that I forgot to say that it's the 153rd day of the year and only 212 left. Yeah, it's so exciting times around here that why would you not want to mention those things as they are coming about and all that kind of fun stuff? I don't know, but it's just one of those things that I was super excited about. So I guess I just didn't mention it. Anyway, so how are you? Like, seriously, how are you? Are you excited into the weekend? Depending on how you were taking a look at it, it could have been a short weekend, long weekend, but now we kind of go back into the normal realm of things that happen. So, as we are going to talk today, we are a show that talks about safety in the news and safety, so you don't have to worry about any of that information right there, because that's what we do. We bring in some professional broadcasters that will broadcast to their heart's desires. We talk about freeform radio. We talk about everything that's the form of a free. That's for sure. And then we actually will go in there and bring in some information going on inside of the world of safety. And, of course, some sarcasm, because what is this world without some level of sarcasm, and go from there. If you want to interact with the show, it's a simple process of doing so. All you have to do is go to callinradio.com. If you're on the video streamer, it says it the whole freaking time that you have to go to callinradio.com. Now, you can interact with the social media platforms. I just don't see it until the end because I'm that kind of guy. Yep, that kind of guy. Don't realize what's happening until the end of the equation. So those are the things that happen here, there, and everywhere. So there you go. Anyway, so with that being said, let's talk a little bit about what in the hell was trending in the overnight. And I think there's going to be some stuff that you already know that's there, because that's how it goes.
Here is what was trending. Rated R Safety Show.
Well, button delays always are a cool thing. Anyways, what's on tap for today? NASA breathes a sigh of relief for the Ingenuity helicopter that comes back online from Mars. Also, data from Macy's and Costco's loom ominously over the economy, so just so you know that. Another former model came forward with a sexual assault accusation against Bill Cosby, and Tupac is getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. We'll talk about that in just a bit. Also, Kim Cattrall returns to Sex and the City, and another Spider-Man flick is in the works. We'll talk about some of that information. We'll also talk about some of the stuff that's going on inside of our industry because, you know, it's important to go into those things. And we'll talk about, well, events, things along those lines, and things that you're probably going to want to be paying close attention to if you're not paying attention already, because that's what we do. We're supposed to pay attention to what the hell's going on. So that's why we can keep you informed, baby. So that's what happens. Anyways, with that being said, why don't we do this? Why don't we bring in the pros of the pros of the pros and let them tell you about what the hell is going on inside of the world of the news? What do you think? You like that idea? You like that idea? And then we can talk about some depression relating with some tropical things. Yeah, you probably got that one. So there you go. Let's bring in the professional newscasters. We'll do that. Get it rolling and bowling. Remember that you are still listening to the Rated R Safety Show.
Here is the news on the Rated R Safety Show.
NBC News Radio, I'm Michael Kastner. The Senate has passed a bill that would suspend the nation's debt ceiling for 2 years. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer applauded the vote.
Of course, nobody got everything they wanted. There was give on both sides, but this agreement was a very good outcome.
Lawmakers voted on the measure Thursday as the deadline to avoid a potential default was just days away. The vote was 63-36, with the new bill now headed to President Biden's desk. Biden said he would be signing the bill into law as soon as possible and addressing the American people directly today. The final vote came after 11 amendments were considered, all of them being shot down. The Fiscal Responsibility Act, as it's called, will raise the debt limit through January 1st, 2025, and implement caps on government spending and policy changes. Former President Trump is dismissing reports that the DOJ has recordings of him talking about a classified document he took from the White House. Reports indicate that in the audio recording, Trump acknowledges holding on to a classified document regarding a potential attack on Iran and that he would like to share the information but is aware of limitations with declassifying records. On Thursday, Trump says he doesn't know anything about the recording but said everything he did was right. New video shows a tense exchange between Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and a reporter during a DeSantis campaign stop in New Hampshire on Thursday. Trey Thomas with more.
DeSantis was shaking hands at the time.
Governor, how come you're not taking questions from voters? Stop coming up to me, talking to me. What are you talking about? I'm not here working with people. Are you blind? Are you blind? I'm not blind. Okay, so people are coming up to me, talking to me, whatever they want to talk to me about.
However, DeSantis did not take questions from the audience following his remarks in Laconia, as most presidential candidates do in the state. I'm Trey Thomas.
On Wall Street, stock futures are on the rise this Friday. Michael Kastner, NBC News Radio.
You are listening to a radio god. What? This has to be an error. That host is not a radio god. Anyways, this is the Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM.
North Carolina's former health secretary is set to be the new CDC director. Brian Shook has details.
Reports say President Biden is planning to give the position to physician Mandy Cohen. HHS Secretary Javier Becerra reportedly spoke to Cohen to congratulate her. The previous leader, Rochelle Walensky, is stepping down June 30th. I'm Brian Shook.
More than a dozen witnesses have testified for the prosecution in the first 3 days of the Tree of Life massacre trial. Robert Bowers faces over 60 federal charges in the mass shooting at a Pittsburgh synagogue that killed 11 people in October of 2018. The counts against Bowers include felony offenses, and prosecutors say they might ask for the death penalty. Controversial U.S. Representative George Santos has hired 2 Georgia operatives to handle the books for his campaign committees. More from Liz Kennedy.
The embattled lawmaker from New York was indicted last month on more than a dozen federal criminal charges, including wire fraud, money laundering, and theft. The AJC reports this week's filing with the Federal Election Commission lists Rick Thompson and Jason Bowles as part of the DeVolder, Santos for Congress and recount committees. Thompson and Bowles are the principals of the Metro Atlanta area-based RTA Strategy Company and have worked for multiple state and national candidates.
It's National Donut Day, and Bree Tennis has the details.
We've been celebrating the day since 1939 to honor the Salvation Army's Donut Lassies. They served soldiers on the front lines during World War I. Today, we celebrate with donut deals. Look for them. And it's DOUGHNUT. Donuts are usually deep fried. That's what makes them so good. And the good old glazed donut is the #1 seller in America, according to Google.
And a new accuser is suing Bill Cosby over an alleged sexual assault. She said it happened in Los Angeles while Cosby was starring in the TV show I Spy. Michael Kastner, NBC News Radio.
Listen to our host
of the Rated R Safety Show
self-implode on our airwaves, only on Safety FM.
It's always amazing to me on how technology changes, and so does the environment that we're in. And cyber criminals will do everything they can to take advantage of a system. If you don't own a home, you have nothing to fear about what I'm about to tell you. But if you own a home like me and you don't guard it with home title lock, you're inviting home title fraud. One of the fastest growing crimes. Cyber thieves around the world know our home values are sky high at the moment, and that makes us a target. The crime is scary simple. Let me explain it to you real quick. A cyber thief simply forges your name on a property sale form and refiles it. That's it. Now he or she is on the deed of your home and you have no idea that you're a victim. Then the person takes out a loan on your home and vanishes, leaving you to prove to the police that you didn't commit bank fraud. Home Title Locks puts a virtual barrier around your home title. The instant they detect any kind of tampering or anybody messing around, they help shut it down. Look, if you have equity in your home, you need to guard it the best way that you can. Some people might even go as far as guarding it with their life. Go to HometitleLock.com and register your address to see if you already are a victim. And enter the code RADIO. That's RADIO. That's the code RADIO for 30 days free of protection. That's code RADIO at HometitleLock.com.
Okay, men, this is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're gonna go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna go grocery shopping, cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You gotta dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. I know you won't, because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hey, are you tired of hanging around and talking about safety in a boring kind of format? Well, I got something for you. If you haven't hung out with us yet at safetyfm.com, I'm going to encourage you to do so. Yeah, if you come out to Safety FM, you can come hang out with all kinds of safety professionals. Some are safety professionals, some are just people that are talking about safety. But we want to do it in a format that makes it fun and entertaining. If you're kind of trying to figure out what the FM portion is, well, we're a radio station and also a podcast network. You can come out, hang out, and listen to my show, The Jay Allen Show. You can listen to Todd Conklin with the pre the accident investigation. Blaine J. Hoffman with the Safety Pro. The Hop Nerd, Sam Goodman, just to name a few on what could be found on the station. Different things for different people, trying to bring safety in an entertaining form. SafetyFM.com. Go to the website, download the app, and carry it with you all day long. SafetyFM.com. We'll be waiting for you.
Listen at your own risk. Rated R Safety Show.
It's my kind of music. I get the best mix of my favorite music. All on one radio station.
Another wild ride is around the corner on Radio Big.
Okay, so there you go, another wild ride, and I love how they talk about music on that section, because this is definitely a musicato for you, my friends, as we are talking. Anyway, so let's talk about it. This is 15 minutes past the top of the hour as you and I are hanging out and doing that thing we do. Yes, I call it doing that thing that we do, because what else are you going to call it? So let's get into the shit list real quick, because it feels like it's the time to do that. Going to go something like this. Elon Musk is once again the richest person on the planet. He continued to surge, and Tesla's value was brought up to the essential tech tycoon to the net worth of $192 billion. His appointment of CEO for Twitter appears to have eased investors' concern of the stock value has rebounded 92% since the start of the year. In the same time, Bernard Assault took $25 billion cut, but he's still the second spot ahead of Louis Vuitton Empire with about $187 billion. In their dust, yes, I said in their dust, it is Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates sitting third and fourth. So there you go. Now you know where certain people are at if you care about that stuff. I mean, I don't know. Is it that big of a deal? You're the richest person on the planet. I mean, I guess I would imagine that you get to some point that you just don't have anything to count anymore because there's so much there. Just something to think about. Anyways, the Ingenuity helicopter that has been operating on Mars since May 2021 has well outperformed NASA's expectation, but recently went dark for about 6 days while the crew on Earth scrambled to figure out what happened. To communicate with the chopper, NASA sends signals to the Perseverance rover, which then communicates with the Ingenuity. But then the signal had gone totally silent. After a week of troubleshooting, the engineers determined that the communication blackout came out to a problem even people on Earth can relate to that can't get cell phone signals. The tall ridges and mountains of the area had been exploring were getting in the way of the signal between the rover and the aircraft, meaning that that fix was a relatively simple task of getting the rover closer to your Ingenuity. So Ingenuity is expected to keep flying as long as it's able to perform its 53rd mission, well beyond the 5 that it was originally slated for. This is all according to Universe Today. So what do you think about it? I thought they were going to immediately say that it was solar flares. Solar flares were causing the issue, but boy, was I wrong. Anyways, a Nashville man says that he lost 58 pounds in 100 days by getting each meal from McDonald's, 3 meals a day. The catch, he says that he only eats half of the order. Doing so, he says that it helped him manage the total caloric intake. His wife got the program about 50 days in and has lost about 20 pounds. No word yet if this guy's exercise problem was like. Just saying. And this is coming via WSMV. So let's talk about it. The only time that I've ever heard about anybody doing a McDonald's diet was the Supersize Me thing. And I don't even know if I want to call it a diet. Maybe it was a McDonald's food attack.
We at Safety FM are not responsible for what this idiot behind the microphone is saying.
He is trying to be entertaining.
Rated R Safety Show.
So it is Freeform Friday, so we're still going to talk and do all the fun stuff that we normally do, so don't worry about that. But we'll get into a little bit more things as we are talking and all that kind of fun stuff. But the CEO of Macy's department store said Thursday during the earnings call that the retailer is revising down its profit forecast and buyers spend less on luxury goods and more on basic like food and essential services. He said the pullback in spending habits was more than anticipated. But wait. Even discount grocery store Costco says the customers are buying fewer steaks and opting instead for cheaper pork and chicken. Behavior shifts like this from the past have been preceded by formal recessions. This is all coming via CNN, so just so you know. What else do we got? 44-year-old Manchester resident Stuart Gilmer likes to be naked. In fact, he embraces nudity so much that he has a license plate that says NAO2KED. So, which was spotted at a gas station last week along with a naked Gilmore. An eyewitness took video of him pumping gas in the nude and shared it on social media. Gilmore spotted the clip and commented on the post, explaining that he has been practicing naturalism for about 8 years now and does everything naked. In addition to having better mental health and more positive body image, Gilmore said that he also saves a fortune on energy bills because he rarely has to do laundry. So here's my question. So I just want to understand this. If you're a nudist or a naturalist or whatever the hell you want to call it, and you go around and visit places, and let's talk about people's houses or just anything in general, do you bring your own set of towels before you sit down?
Listen at your own risk. Rated R Safety Show.
Hey, somebody has to ask the question. If he's been doing it for 8 years, he must have some level of a plan because he's already seen everything. Come on. Calm down. It's okay. That's why it's Freeform Friday. We can talk about anything. Anyways, with that being said, maybe it's time to bring some John Smalls in and let him talk about what the hell's going on inside of the market beat. So let's do that right now.
Here's your Market Beat Minute for Friday, June 2nd, brought to you by GenesisGoldIRA.com. Equity markets advanced Thursday after a resolution to the debt ceiling emerged. The S&P 500 gained almost 1% by the end of the day and is on track for a new high in the coming week. The caveat for traders and investors is that the index is still below the critical 4,300 mark and may not be able to advance beyond it. The NFP report will dominate today's action. The NFP is expected to have moderate job growth, an uptick in unemployment, and ongoing wage inflation. The news, as expected, suggests a slowing in the economy, but does not give the FOMC much leeway regarding interest rates. With inflation still running hot, the FOMC will have to keep rates higher, which will continue to pressure the S&P 500 earnings. You can get the inside track from Wall Street's brightest minds delivered directly to your inbox every day at MarketBeatMinute.com.
Okay, thank you, John Smalls, for the information on what in the hell is going on inside of the multiverse, because it's always important to know that kind of stuff. There is no doubt about that. Let me tell you a little bit about what I was able to locate. The Dow added about 153 points to close at 33,061 on Thursday. The S&P added about 41 points to close at 4,221, and the NASDAQ added about 165 points to close at 13,100. West Texas Intermediate closed at $70 a barrel, and Brent crude was just about 74. The national average price of a gallon of gas was $3.57 on Thursday, and Bitcoin fell nearly 1.2% on Thursday, trading around just $26,900. There was more than 4,100 delayed flights within, into, and out of the United States on Thursday, and more than 170 cancellations. Both Air Canada and Spirit were plagued with technical glitches, gumming up their systems, contributing to cascading effects of delays. So that was the main reason why you saw so many issues going on. Also, just in case if you play the game, tonight's Mega Million drawing will be for $203 million jackpot or $104.6 million cash payout. Saturday night's Powerball drawing will be for $262 million cash payout. No, it won't. That's a lie. That's the jackpot. The cash payout will be $133.2 million. So there you go. Now you got some stuff to think about as we are talking. So let's talk a little bit more about some things that are going on inside of the multiverse, because why would you not want to do that? So taking a look around, let's talk about this. Prince Harry is set to testify in UK court next week with the first senior British royal to do so in 130 years. Michael Kastner reports.
The case is over a lawsuit he and dozens of other celebrities have brought against tabloid publisher Mirror Group newspapers for, among other things, hacking and unlawful activity to get information. The last senior royal to give testimony in court was Edward VII back in 1891 in a slander trial over a card game. I'm Michael Kastner.
Okay, thank you, Michael Kastner, for the information on what is going on there. And some other news, a Manhattan grand jury reported that has a case of the Marine veteran accused of manslaughter for choking a man to death on a New York City subway. Scott Pringle has more.
Sources tell ABC News that a grand jury is starting to hear evidence in the case. Manhattan prosecutors are trying to secure an indictment on a second-degree manslaughter charge against Daniel Penny. He's accused of using the deadly chokehold on Jordan Neely back on May 1st. Penny may actually testify in the case. Now, he and some witnesses argue that Neely, who had mental health challenges, was acting unruly and threatening subway riders before Penny applied the chokehold, while others say Neely was not a threat. Scott Pringle, NBC News Radio, New York.
Okay, thank you, Scott Pringle, for the information on what is going on inside of the worldo, because why would we not want that information? So there you go. Let's talk about some other things. DNA has led to arrest in a 35-year-old cold case. Here we go with the Brie Larson again. Brie Tennis has more.
San Diego police say a routine arrest led them to a DNA match in a cold case murder. 57-year-old James Charles Kingery was arrested on suspicion of narcotics and weapons violation. That arrest required he submit to a DNA sample. 2 months later, that sample came back as a match to samples taken in the homicide case of 26-year-old Julia Hernandez Santiago. Her body was found October 10th of 1987 on an embankment in Carlsbad. Kingery is now charged in a rape and murder. He faces up to 25 years to life in state prison. He'll be sentenced next month. I'm Bree Tennis, NBC News Radio.
Okay, thank you, Bree Tennis, for the information right there on what is going on, because it's always interesting to see how technology continues to change and how things will actually end up happening. Anyways, take a listen to this one. A Queens man who shot and killed a man who was trying to rob him is due in court today on a separate weapons charges. Scott Pringle has more.
Police say Charles Foner was on 82nd Avenue near Queens Boulevard in Kew Gardens 2 in the morning Wednesday when he says a robbery suspect demanded money and lunged at him with what he thought was a sharp object. It turned out to be a pen. Police say the victim, Cody Gonzalez, was not armed when Foner shot him. They also confirmed that Foner is not charged in connection with the shooting itself, but rather weapons charges stemming from a search warrant that led authorities to more than 24 guns. Scott Pringle, NBC News Radio, New York.
Okay, thank you, Scott Pringle, for the information right there. Let's continue with this. An investigation is underway following a shooting that left a 14-year-old dead and 7 others hospitalized on Chicago's South Side. Perry Williams has more information.
Authorities say a group of people fired shots toward another group last night in the 4200 block of South Wells. Responding officers found several wounded individuals on the ground and a male armed with a handgun. That suspect reportedly began firing shots at officers. One officer returned fire and the offender fled, but was taken into custody a short time later after being shot in the leg. A woman and 4 teens were hospitalized, including a young teenage boy who was pronounced dead. I'm Perry Williams.
Okay, thank you, Perry Williams, for the information right there on what was going on. Take a listen to this. If you're in Florida, you're probably going to want to know this. Tropical Depression number 2 is a little storm that won't likely. Take a listen.
Most times when systems get in the Gulf of Mexico, they typically impact land, but this is going to be sort of the anomaly. We're expected to move south and weaken due to very strong wind shear and very dry air that's working its way in.
John Casaloghi, senior meteorologist of the National Hurricane Center in Miami, says it is not impossible for it to gain a tiny bit of oomph, if you may call it that, to a weak tropical storm, although not likely. A reconnaissance plane will be taking a closer look later this morning. The weak rainmaker should dissipate, and by late weekend as it's over the south towards Cuba. Cancelloghi also says that number 2 chances of becoming a weak tropical storm. Take a listen.
If it does become a tropical storm, it will likely be right at the bottom of that threshold. Because right now it's only 5 miles an hour away from getting a name.
Okay, so do you really want to be at the bottom of the threshold? Who knows?
Rated R Safety Show. Sarcastic? Never.
Okay, so let's talk about it. Denver Street Partnership urges city to prioritize funding for an updated Vision Zero plan. Take a listen to this. Denver is recommending to its Vision Zero plan to eliminate all traffic-related deaths on the city streets by 2030. Molly McKinley, The policy director for the Denver Streets Partnership is hoping that the city prioritizes funding to make sure that the plan actually happens.
We're joined with community members and advocates calling on the city leadership, particularly the new mayor and city council, to significantly increase the amount of funding for traffic safety projects and public transit.
Okay, Mayor Michael Hancock launched the Vision Zero campaign in 2017. So far, it hasn't gone exactly as planned as traffic fatalities continue to be a growing issue in Denver. The Denverite reports that in 2022, 84 people died in city streets and nearly 400 crashes resulted in serious injuries. Now the updated plan, in which it is anticipated to have 6 years to implement, is to prioritize more infrastructure for pedestrians and bicyclists. Improvements are promised to be made where traffic incidents are greater. Officials also will work on reducing the speed limits across the city. Denver Street Partnership demonstrated alongside the Federal Boulevard and 36th Avenue, where 32-year-old Ansley O'Neill was struck and killed by a car while riding her bike just 6 months ago. Her mother, Cindy Stepp, attended.
If we can keep one person from this struggle, I'm all in.
Okay, so let's talk about this because, listen, it's almost kind of like that thing, that little snappy-yappy when somebody mentions that. So I understand the purpose. I understand Vision Zero. I understand what you're trying to accomplish. It's a great idea. No, seriously, it is a great idea to want to not want to injure, or matter of fact, let's rephrase that, not to want to kill anyone due to city streets. I get it. It makes sense. But you go a little bit further into this and say 400 crashes resulted in serious injuries. So you have to take a look at it. Are you going to lower the 84 deaths, or are you going to lower the 400 injuries? Because you can't really have a combination of both things. It's one or the other kind of thing. You have to be, well, let me rephrase that because that was wrong. You have to almost be willing, if we lower the 84, we have to be able to accept some of the injuries that occur. Some people will not like the wording of that. I get it. I understand it. But also at the same time, too, there has to be an understanding that one does not kind of look at over the other. If you lower this, does not mean that it's going to lower that. And a lot of people tend to struggle with this.
We at Safety FM are not responsible for what this idiot behind the microphone is saying. He is trying to be entertaining. Rated R Safety Show.
So let's take a look. 32 minutes past the top of the hour. Let's do that thing that we do.
Here is the news on the Rated R Safety Show.
Feature story news in the UK. I'm John Beaver. The US Congress has passed a bill paving the way for the suspension of the nation's debt ceiling, a move that prevents a catastrophic default on its $31.4 trillion worth of debt. From Washington, D.C., Benji Hire reports.
America, the world, is breathing a huge sigh of relief. Having been given the green light by the two chambers of Congress following a series of attempted amendments, the deal can now be signed into law, and the debt ceiling will be raised until 2025. The can effectively kicked down the road, an imminent economic crisis successfully averted. Had this not been agreed, the government would have run out of the cash it needs to pay its bills, and the US would be sent careening towards a default, a historic first, sending shockwaves through global financial markets. Some Republicans on the right still believe the deal doesn't cap spending enough. Others, mainly Democrats on the left, are unhappy it may make it harder for those on lower incomes to receive aid.
A deal between the US and Taiwan aimed at deepening trade and economic ties between the two countries has been met by a furious reaction from Beijing. While the deal is modest, it signals Washington's commitment to the self-governing island. Nina Maria Potts reports.
While Washington and Taipei were signing the bilateral trade deal, China's defense minister reiterated Beijing's position on Taiwan, saying Beijing will absolutely not renounce the use of force against Taiwan. The modest trade deal covers customs forms, anti-corruption measures, and trade regulation. It doesn't change tariffs on traded goods, nor does it cover double taxation issues Taiwan has long complained about. Still, it's the first significant trade deal between the US and Taiwan, and is a further step to deepening the relationship. Tensions between the US and China continue to simmer, with Taiwan one of the core issues in strained relations.
Indian farmers are throwing their weight behind female wrestlers who've been protesting for months against sexual harassment. From New Delhi, Ishan Garg reports.
Hundreds of farmers from North India are organising mega meetings. They're working on a strategy to launch a mass agitation against the government. They're alleging the government of inaction against Brij Bhushan Singh, a ruling party MP who's being accused of sexual harassment by female wrestlers. Farmers say the grapplers have been duped by the government, who promised them strict action against Singh. And now, even though a police report has been filed against Singh, he still remains in his position. Farmers say they will meet with the President of India and seek swift justice. Officials say the protesters should trust the judicial process and that steps will only be taken after the police investigation is over.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, what to make of the news that America will not default on its debts. The country's date with economic catastrophe has been averted as a result of a political deal forged at the 11th hour between President Joe Biden and his Republican opponents. David Smith is Washington correspondent for Britain's Guardian newspaper.
It has happened before, most notably about a decade ago when there was a similar standoff and a threat of default, and in fact one of the credit agencies lowered America's credit rating because of doubts over whether it would pay its bills. This time, in what's a very divided, politically polarised era, Republicans were not just going to lift this debt limit without making some demands to curb spending and impose various conservative priorities. Republicans did get some of what they wanted. In terms of the forthcoming budget, spending is pretty much frozen for the next year, apart from defence. But Joe Biden also managed to protect a lot of his priorities around climate and other things. Perhaps it was inevitable in the end. Even they realised a default would be too catastrophic to contemplate.
And indeed, default would have resulted in economic contagion all over the world. The compromise, though, only gets the country to 2025. You can expect to hear a lot more about America's debt ceiling in 2 years' time. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
To recap the top stories, a deal to lift the borrowing limit in the US has been approved by Congress. It comes just days before the world's largest economy was due to default on its debt. A US-Taiwan deal aimed at deepening trade and economic ties between the two countries has been met by a furious reaction from Beijing. And Indian farmers are throwing their weight behind female wrestlers who've been protesting for months about alleged widespread sexual harassment. That's the latest feature story news. John Beaver reporting.
You are listening to something magical. You're listening to the Rated R Safety Show.
Let's start using cutting-edge warp speed 5G technology with your cell phone. Let me tell you about my friends at mobilemobile.io. They have an ultra-fast 4G LTE and 5G network that covers 99% of Americans. So they've got you covered everywhere. Think about it for a moment. You have the opportunity to take a test drive for 10 days with unlimited talk, text, and premium data. What is premium data? Premium data is an allotment of a cellular data that you receive from a higher priority on the network. You won't get throttled like you will with some of those, well, non-brand service providers. To find out more information, all you have to do is go to mobilemobile.io. That's mobilemobile.io to start your 10-day free trial.
Hello. Olivia from Washington. Laid off and trying to keep our little kids from realizing that mommy and daddy haven't eaten in a while.
Roger from California. I'm grateful we could afford our son's surgery. I'm nervous that now we can't really afford food.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Keisha from South Carolina. I've been skipping meals so my 2 kids can eat, but filling up on water doesn't really work.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Have you ever wanted to start live streaming and were not sure how to do it? You can start live streaming up to 40 social media platforms all at one time for as little as nada. It's going to cost you your time. That is what it's going to cost. You can pre-record, you can live stream, you can do a multitude of things. To find out more information, all you have to do is go to safetyfm.com/one. That's safetyfm.com, ONE.
Hey, let me ask you something. Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the deep end of a pool? One last question. Would you seat your child in a car seat that's not correct for them? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Secure their future. Seat them in the correct car seat. For more information, visit safercar.gov/the right seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Is your safety training old, stale, and hacked? Is your safety trainer still preaching a warped version of behavior-based safety? How about safety training that actually addresses your hazards in your workplaces and is not standardized baloney from 25 years ago? Contact the Safety Wars team at safetywars.com or call Jim Posel at 845-269-5772. Remember, if you're receiving this message, you are the solution to unsafe workplaces.
Pop quiz hotshot. During a heat wave, what's more important, air conditioning or air guitar?
Is it air conditioning?
Air guitar. The answer is always air guitar.
Yes, you know how it goes. 42 minutes past. Hour number 1 of the Jay Allen in the Morning Show, also referred to many of times over as the Rated R Safety Show. So yes, this right here, you've heard it before, but we still love it. Yeah, this one's To My Grave by Step Rockets. Yeah, we like it that much. So there you go. You can take a little streamer action of it. YouTube Music, Spotify, Apple Music. Yeah, that's what it's about. I keep on thinking we need to do a music episode. I really do. I really do. There's so much music we play that I think that, we need to, give it an hour or so. Not talking about the typical stuff that we do on the other side of the equation. Anyway, so thanks to Step Rockets for allowing us to play this one here. And as you can tell, we really do like it. So there you go. Anyways, I will get carried away in the music because that's what I do. You know, always been there. Never left me, never betrayed me, unless I ran out of battery power. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's get into it real quick. Let's talk about the most important thing that I'm ever going to tell you in my lifetime, and that's about my friends at To Write Love on Her Arms. Not joking as I say that. That's TWLOHA.com, and why do I put such emphasis and importance on this? Because they're there to help you find help. If you need immediate help, view the 24-hour helplines that are available at their website at TWLOHA.com. You click on the far right section that says Find Help. Remember, no matter what you're facing, you deserve to be connected to help. To Write Love on Her Arms wants you to know that people have been where you are now and things can get better. Healing is possible. Like I've told you in the past, if you go to their website, all kinds of stuff, their crisis text line for the U.S., 741-741. Crisis text line for the UK, 85258. Crisis text line for Ireland, 50808. If you need the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, just dial 988 or text 988, and there is all kinds of stuff on their website for you. TWLOHA.com. So there you go. Anyways, let's get into some stuff. Talk about some things that are going on. So I don't know what you're going to be doing this week coming up and all that kind of fun stuff. We like to talk a little bit about everything. So let's take a look-see around. I will tell you that next week I will not be speaking at any event that's outside of this show. So I figured that if you wanted inclusion, diversity and inclusion, to let people know that you're not going to be speaking at any event, particularly in mid-Texas, I got a little sign available for you. All you have to do is, you can get this little sign, go to safetyfm.com and go to the section that says, I am not. And it has all the information right there on how you're not speaking at anything next week. And don't join me because I'm not going to be speaking there. So there you go. You can't join me at something I'm not going to be at. That's all I'm telling you. Don't join me on where I'm not going to be. So that's available for you. All you have to do is go to safetyfm.com and I am not. So there you go. I want you to feel included into everything. I'm not going to be there. You're not going to be there. We're not going to be anywhere. I'm going to be right here. That's where I'm going to be. Right here. Right here, right now. Now, that sounds like a song, because it is a song. Anyway, so let's go ahead and continue into talking about some things that are going on this lovely Freeform Friday. If you are looking to get into the movies this week, well, let me tell you about some of the stuff that's coming out. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse comes out today. Miles Morales catapults across the multiverse, where he encounters this team of spider people and charged with prosecuting its very extensive ways. When the heroes clash out to handle the new threat, Miles must redefine what it means to be a hero. So that's available today. Also, The Boogeyman comes out today. Two sisters reeling from the recent death of their mother aren't getting much support from their therapist father. When a desperate patient shows up at their home, he leaves behind a terrifying supernatural entity that preys on the family. And Simulant is the other one that comes out today. A humanoid enlists a hacker to remove all the restrictions from his thoughts and capabilities, triggering an AI uprising and a government manhunt to eliminate the rise of the machine's consciousness. That's all available if you want to go to the theater today. So there you go. Some stuff for you. Anyways, let's talk about some nudes of the weird. Not nudes of the weird, but news of the weird. A peculiar burglary captured on camera shows a man stealing a box of cupcakes from a Vancouver bakery. But first, he cleaned up the mess that he made while breaking in. Security footage from Sweet Something shows a man kicking in a bakery glass door on Friday. After hanging around inside for about a half an hour, he's seen mopping up the broken glass and grabbing a box of 6 cupcakes before leaving. The bakery owner called it a true Canadian break-in. Did he also leave a note saying, sorry? Maybe that's the other question. Also, here you go. Your driver's license is now the place for a sexy selfie. The Georgia Department of Driver Services took to Facebook on Tuesday to remind people to keep their clothes on while taking for a digital driver's license or ID. The department wrote, please take pictures with your clothes on when submitting them to the digital driver's license and IDs. Georgia residents are allowed to use digital driver's license on an ID from their Apple Wallet, on an iPhone, or an Apple Watch. watch the Department of Driver Services finish a post writing cheers to technology and keeping things classy. Oh, did Florida man move to Georgia or something? I'm just wondering, just asking the question, just wanting to understand what the hell's going on. Take it easy.
Safety never sounded so terrible. Rated R Safety Show.
I mean, it's always an interesting times and some of the stuff that goes on. I mean, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Anyways, take a listen to this. This is making the rounds yesterday. Journalists from Garnett are walking off hold on. No. This is making the rounds. So take a listen is what I should say. Journalists from Garnett are walking off the job next week and strike. Sarah Bartlett explains.
The company's workers' union is calling on the media giant, which owns USA Today and hundreds of local and Metro daily newspapers, to issue a vote of no confidence in its CEO. They're accusing Mike Reed of gross mismanagement ahead of the company's annual shareholders meeting on June 5th. The president of News Guild CWA says Gannett is radioactive to investors due to Reed and said he doesn't see the long-term value of investing in his journalists. I'm Sarah Bartlett.
Wow, doesn't that sound shitty? Imagine that for a moment. All of a sudden you're at a place that you work at and they tell you, yeah, we don't see any value in investing in what the hell you're doing. Hey now. I mean, think about that. Give that a thought for a moment or two. Yeah, that'll make you go bonkers. Anyways, a Richmond school official hopes that a newly released video will get people to stop for school buses. Richard Sterling has more information.
The video released this week on YouTube shows an SUV almost hitting a child last month on Richmond Highway. A school bus is shown stopped with its stop arm extended, but an SUV passes the bus anyway. A child trying to cross the street to get to the bus had to run to avoid getting hit. Police say the driver of the SUV was caught and fined $250. School board member Jonathan Young tells NBC 12 students shouldn't have to worry about if they can arrive to school safe just because people are driving like fools. I'm Richard Stelling.
Oh, so there you go. People shouldn't drive like fools. Thank you for letting us know this. I mean, let's talk about it. We have to understand how the systems should work for bus stops. And listen, I know that you are actually requesting that somebody actually stop does not necessarily mean that they're paying attention. It's a single point failure system, something to talk about as you are talking and taking a look at what is going on. Anyways, take a listen to this. We talked about this briefly last week, so let's talk a little bit more. Ford Company is reversing an earlier decision to remove AM radios from their vehicles, and it's still happening with several other electric automakers. NBC's Katie Beck says that there are concerns about sending out alerts as a form of emergencies.
Sales were up 65% last year, and the car companies that make them are ditching AM radios in their new models. Automakers say it's because the motors on electric cars interfere with AM frequencies.
I mean, I guess that's good news, right? Anyway, CEO Jim Farley recently made an announcement that he says that he will leave the service after speaking with government officials who had been voicing strong opposition to Ford's action. Many have pointed out that the emergency alerts are broadcast on AM stations, which have far better search reach than FM signals. Sorry about that. The move also comes after a bipartisan group of lawmakers introduced the bill called AM for Every Vehicle Act. That called for the National Highway Safety Administration to require AM radios in vehicles at no additional charge. NBC's Beck reports that AM radio is still widely used.
While AM radio is on the decline, 47 million people still listen to it, according to Nielsen, including those who may not have the money to buy things like smartphones or satellite radio.
Yeah, because you use the tech that you have available. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Anyway, so there you go. 53 minutes past the top of the hour. I think it's time to talk about the Motivation Minute. So let's go ahead and bring some John Smalls into our life.
The Motivation Minute is courtesy of InsuranceChicken.com. Today's quote was submitted by Vanessa. Kurt Vonnegut said in a response to a 2006 letter from a high school student, "What I have to say to you, moreover, would not take long to wit. Practice any art, music, singing, dancing, acting, drawing, painting, sculpting, poetry, fiction, essays, reportage, no matter how well or badly, not to get money and fame, but to experience becoming, to find out what's inside you, to make your soul grow. Seriously, I mean, start right now. Do art and do it for the rest of your lives." I'm going to skip the middle section and go right to the end where he said, "You have experienced becoming, learned a lot more about what's inside you, and you have made your soul grow. God bless you all." If you'd like to read the entire letter, I have it posted at motivationminute.org. This has been today's Motivation Minute, courtesy of InsuranceChicken.com. Your favorite motivational quotes can be submitted for upcoming programs at motivationminute.org.
Your Wellness Minute is brought to you by alasamorgan.com. Abdominal fat is high in a type of adipose tissue called visceral fat, which is uniquely hormonally active and in this way contributes to chronic inflammation and cardiovascular disease risk. Visceral fat has a purpose, but too much of it is a pretty bad thing. If you don't want to have a lot of visceral fat, exercise combats it, but drinking alcohol, especially frequently, seems to promote it. Studies have shown that people who persistently drink generally have significantly more belly fat, and here's why it matters. Having a large waistline can double one's risk of dying prematurely even if your BMI is low. In a study of over 350,000 people, each 2-inch increase in waist circumference for a given BMI increased the mortality risk by 17% in men and 13% in women. For more information, check out alasamorgan.com.
Hello, I'm Richard Exley with your 1-minute devotion. The security of our salvation is not dependent on living a sinless life, but on our faith in the finished work of Jesus Christ. That's his sinless life, his sacrificial death, and his glorious resurrection. We strive to walk in obedience and to live a holy life, not in order to become holy, but because he has made us holy. The question we should ask ourselves is, am I cooperating with the Holy Spirit to work out my salvation by fully yielding to his sanctifying work? 1 John 1:8 says, if we confess our sins, he is faithful and just and will forgive us our sins and purify us from all unrighteousness. Father God, continue to work your grace in me until I am fully conformed to the image of your dear Son. Amen. If these devotions are a blessing and an encouragement to you, you can subscribe at oneminutedevotion.com.
Another pitfall of our society. Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, 56 minutes past, meaning that we are running out of time, baby. Tick-tock. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about some things that happened back on this date. Back in 2020, the UK COVID-19 death toll surpasses 50,000. Secondly, only to the U.S., which has a death toll of 106,000. Globally, more than 379,000 people have died because of the virus. This happened back in 2020. If you're looking at some birthdays for today, let's talk about some of them. Brittany O'Grady turns 27. Amber Marshall, 35. Abby Wabash turns 43. Dominic Cooper, 45. Justin Long, hey now, 45. AJ Styles turns 46. Wayne Brady, 51. Wentworth Miller turns 51. Andy Cohen, 55. Beetlejuice, 55. Kyle Petty turns 63. Dana Carvey turns 68. And that's going to round them up for today. If you're looking at some days of the year to celebrate, well, I think you kind of already know of one because we've talked about it already. But it's National Fish and Chips Day, National Rocky Road Day, National Leave the Office Early Day. I thought that was every day. Hold on. National Rotisserie Chicken Day. And, of course, National Donut Day. Why would you let that one pass by? So there you go. That's going to round those things up for you as we are talking. If you need a random joke for today, I have one of those for you. No man goes before his time unless his boss leaves early. If you need a phone starter for today, try this. What is your theme song? And sing it. If you need a question for a water cooler, try this. In a survey of 1 in 4 families, there are an argument every week over this chore. What is it? Mowing the lawn. That would be the chore, the mowing of the lawn. So there you go. So that's going to sum up our time together. At the top of the hour, I'll be going over to radiobig.fm if you want to come and hang out and do the things that we do over there. Or you can hang out right here on Safety FM and talk to good old Sheldon Primus as he tells you about the business of safety consulting. That's exactly what goes on. So keep that in mind as we are talking. Anyway, so that's going to sum it up. Let me leave you with a deep thought for today, if I may. Misery might love company, but so does joy, and joy throws much better parties. Think about that as you go into this lovely weekend. Anyways, I will be back on Monday unless you're following along. And remember, at noon today, Safety FM mini episode on podcast. That's how that happens. Anyways, I know who you are.
Duh.
Hopefully you know who I am. Love you, mean it, and goodbye. Have a fantastic weekend if we're not continuing to hang.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.